last spring, this Hangar 4 was dedicated, and we placed this beautiful plane in the hangar. This plane served as Air Force One from about 1960 when it was delivered at Andrews, and then in about 1990 it was pushed down to Air Force Two because of the arrival of the C-25, otherwise known as the 747 that we still fly today. So I flew this plane as an Air Force Two pilot, and I flew Vice Presidents Dan Quayle, Al Gore. I also flew Hillary Clinton when she was the First Lady, Secretary of State James Baker, Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney, among others. A lot of congressmen in there too. So to me, it was the best job of my Air Force career. I mean, they paid me to fly around the world, get time off in exotic locations that people spend their life savings to go do. And everyone that flew this plane, everyone at Andrews, in fact, are handpicked. We have to undergo a special interview process. And it's a 3-day long interview, many hurdles to jump through, a lot of interviews with the commanders. And then if you're one of the lucky ones, they select you to come and fly. So it looks kind of cramped, but for the day, this was as big as they got until the 747 or the other wide-body jets came online. This was it. And back in the days we flew this, we had a navigator who sat right back here, flight engineer, and of course the pilot and co-pilot. And I know it looks like there's a lot of buttons and a lot of switches, and there really are. And you have to know what each switch, which each button, which each circuit breaker does. And that's why we had so many people up here to share the workload. Compared to today's aircraft, there are no more flight engineers, there are no more navigators. Boeing has done such a well job designing like the 777 or 787 that a two-man crew can actually fly the entire plane. Wasn't the case with this. So it was crew cockpit resource management was the buzzword of the day, which means we all worked together as a team. We didn't hold in any information back. If someone saw something that didn't quite look right, you immediately brought it to the attention of the other crew members. If there was a problem, we solved it together. It was a team, a true team effort. It's a great sense of pride. And I actually have to pinch myself at times to say, did I really do this? Did I really go to all those places, or was it just a dream? And the first time I saw this plane after it had been decommissioned and it was here at the hangar, I actually had a few tears in my eyes. We all have a very personal connection with this airplane. It was, once you're in there, it's a living, breathing machine. And the crew is the heartbeat. The people that fly in the back are, of course, important. They couldn't get there without the crew, though. When I was at Andrews, we had 7 707s. Of all of them, this was the best plane to fly. The only way I could describe it is if you drove 7 different automobiles, one would feel by far better than the rest, even if they were all the same model, same manufacturer. This one had an advanced avionics package when it was delivered to the Air Force, and it was capable of doing things that no commercial airliner could do. It actually had some special provisions put on board that enhanced the flyability and the comfort of the passengers themselves. It was just a dream. Whenever we were assigned a mission back at our scheduling section at Andrews, we would always keep our fingers crossed. I hope I get 26,000, because undeniably it was the favorite of all the pilots and the rest of the crew members as well. Now, of course, the history of this plane is that it brought Kennedy's body back from Dallas, and we all look at that event with great reverence, and once again, very humbling to know that we flew that same airplane. We take off from Andrews to fly to Moscow, for example, and we could do that nonstop in this plane. We would tell the vice president, whoever the dignitary on board was, that we would arrive at Moscow at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning. We would generally, and I would say 99% of the time, arrive, set brakes, door open at 8 o'clock in the morning, plus or minus 10 seconds. There's no airline in the world that can do that. So that just shows how hard we worked that entire flight, adjusting our times, adjusting our altitudes, take advantage of winds, and anything we can to make that on-time arrival. It was very important to us as a professional pride item. We'd go to, let's just say, Hungary or Poland, former Eastern Bloc countries that didn't really see a lot of United States presence until the Iron Curtain came down. We'd be met with marching bands, military formations, parades. It was a big deal. And so we were, as crew members, ambassadors at large ourselves. And when we flew to foreign countries, we flew in civilian suits. We didn't wear our uniforms for security reasons. And when we stayed at the hotel, we would not wear, for example, NFL football jerseys or anything like that that might readily identify us as Americans. So our behavior was exemplary at all times, very polite. We liked to tour when we were on the ground. But yeah, we would get receptions upon landing that were as good as anything you've ever seen in the United States when heroes from our wars would come home. It's quite humbling to see that. What a swell plane to fly. And as far as the maintaining that you talked about, yeah, we carried crew chiefs with us everywhere we went. And if we had to fly through some rain or we landed on a runway that was snow-packed and it had maybe salt, and they use the equivalent of salt on runways, they don't use real salt because it would corrode the planes. But before the crew chiefs left this aircraft and went to their hotel, they would polish it. And then they would show up ahead of the rest of the crew on departure day and they would clean it again. It was just, it looked like this for every takeoff. Once again, that sense of American pride. And we wanted to show the rest of the world how proud we were.